So if you are just doing sales ops, you're not thinking about the handoff between marketing and sales. And you're not thinking about like, maybe a little bit here, but like SDR to AE is another really painful spot. But so is it at the end of you sign a contract, that should be the happiest moment. And sometimes we don't talk to our customer for like 2 weeks till the onboarding team starts, right? And it's those points that are really the issues. So if you really just have a sales ops team calling themselves RevOps team, they're not gonna be tackling those things.
I have Jen today. How lucky I am. I've known Jen for a while. Can't believe that we've not done an interview together before. She has been the founder and CEO of Go Nimbly and been in the RevOps space for 10 years now?
Yeah, maybe 11 a little
years.
More, yeah.
Jen runs a company that helps CROs and CMOs and CEOs with their operations. I wish more companies would get more help there. Efficiency is hard to come by, and only if you have like a kick-ass RevOps team. Jen, she's the expert. I can't wait to talk to her about things that she has seen lately that might make a big impact on this kind of line of work. One of the first topics that I want to talk to you about is what have you seen now that AI focuses so much on having good data to derive decisions by. What have you seen is happening in the market on that front?
Yeah, I think that's huge and super exciting, and I think really good for revenue operators. Forever, the operators that we've been talking to have been complaining about data, or like even sales team complaining about, I've got duplicates, or I can't trust my data sets, or I've got all these vendors coming in and appending data, but I can't do anything with it. And we would always propose these big data projects to do data cleanup, and they would kind of get stopped at the executive level. Well, now that's shifting and it's coming like top down, where data is becoming that much more important. We're doing, across most of our customers, we're doing data work because they can't build any models or anything interesting on top of data they don't trust. So we're seeing a lot more data normalization and data projects.
And what kind of projects do people mostly go through?
Yeah, there's, I think, an array. Let me start with the biggest one, which is, when I started my career more than 10 years ago, I worked at a company called Blue Wolf. I got bought by IBM. And whenever we would do tech analysis, we would draw like a big old circle, and that was Salesforce in the middle. Then we would draw all these little ancillary integrations with all these other products. And we would put all product data into Salesforce, and then the other products could read it. That's changing. Now when we draw that big old circle in the middle, we're drawing a data warehouse. And then we're thinking about what data needs to go from there to these other tools, and we're not pushing everything. And I think marketing has always dealt with this. If you wanted to do any product segmentation, you would push all that information into Salesforce and then you would query it. Now we can go direct. And it's allowing teams to have much more specific requirements and do things much more interestingly, for lack of a better word. And so that's a big change. And then normalizing data. So like implementing your data warehouse, and then lots of rules on saying, great, I'm gonna get information from ZoomInfo and Cognizant and all these other tools. How do I normalize it so I have one industry value and not 16? And so we're doing a lot of like simplifying data sets.
We are doing something similar. We have Snowflake, and we derive all our reports from it. I became a lot better at Sigma reports these days.
Great job.
Last night I was looking at conversion rates per industry. Super fascinating to see that.
It seems so simple, but we had a customer where we literally did industry. We broke it out into like thematic sector, and industry. When we looked at all the different sources to just get those 3 values on every account. And after we did it, there were only 30 accounts without like a normalized value, so it worked really well. And I thought it was gonna be mostly for like territory carving or maybe some lead scoring, but every team's using it. Products looking at usage by industry to figure out like which industries are using which features. The sales team is obviously using it for territory carving and all of that. Marketing team is using it for scoring and routing, and so it seems like sometimes the work that we do, I'm like, oh, I just normalize some fields, but it's changing their entire business, and they're making decisions on which industries to pivot into because of this data. So it's fulfilling to kind of see that kind of work.
Another thing that I wanted to talk to you about, since in terms of North Stars, NRR is such a big focus, and expansion and cross-sell, I'm curious, what projects have you had with some of your customers in that area?
Yeah, expansion's another one in CS. CS used to be that kind of redheaded child that didn't get any money. And we've been repping the RevOps messaging for a long time. And that means marketing, sales, and CS. But admittedly, CS doesn't get the projects. And that's starting to happen. So much more emphasis on expansion because new business is harder. And we've done a really cool project with one of our customers. I won't actually name their name, but big tech customer. And they've got a big PLG motion, self-serve motion. And what we've done is created a model to look at their existing usage to identify what we were calling like human-led moments or like signals. Because it might go to CS, it might go to sales, you might even route it to an executive depending. But we're looking for things like, okay, your champion was recently deactivated. What's going on? What are you doing? Or usage is spiking on something that tells me that maybe they're going to hit their usage limits that they have, or that it's telling me that we could cross-sell into them. Or one that I really love is see multiple departments on the platform, which is like, great, I need to go have like an enterprise level conversation with you. And since launching it in 2 months, we closed an extra $350,000 of ARR pretty quickly that we wouldn't have known if we just kind of let it run.
I'm so bullish on this kind of motions. It used to be that marketers would just try to resonate to as bigger pool of an audience as they could. Then there was a focus on segments and making sure that your message resonates with a specific segment. And now that you have AI, you can do one-on-one messaging.
Totally.
And using data to personalize that message that comes in front of your audience feels so magical. It feels so magical.
And I had like an aha moment. I was chatting with a gentleman, TJ, on my team about this sort of, how do we look at usage data and then how do we use that to send the right signals to the sales team? And it's funny because I come from a marketing ops background that I forgot like a huge use case, which is how do you use usage to allow marketing to send better messaging so that I know that you're a customer that's already done X, Y, and Z. I'm not going to talk about those things. I'm going to talk about the next level and really understand where you are in the adoption journey. And I'm excited that more people are doing that. Like customer marketing is the new kind of hot thing and people are actually spending money on it.
Yeah, I'm so happy that finally people focus on customers that are happy.
Totally.
There's another thing that both you and I are observing. There's a disconnect between CEOs and ops in general. On one side, the CEO is never happy with their efficiency and they always want to do better. And every time I talk to a founder, they say, oh, RevOps is our weakest spot, we haven't yet figured it out. And on the other spectrum, I see a lot of RevOps leaders who feel they're not appreciated. They feel like they only get pinged when things go wrong. Why do you think that there's this disconnect between these two functions? And let's start with that. Why do you think that there's a disconnect, and then we can talk about what to do about it?
There are some very wonderful CROs and CEOs that get it. But I think what's happening is like revenue operations is somewhat of a new concept. When we started 7 years ago, it didn't. We talked about unifying the business stack. That was all our messaging instead of RevOps. And so it's relatively new. And what we've been talking about and promising is, hey, this is a strategic function that is going to find your gaps. It's going to figure out how to increase your conversion and increase your LTV and do all these really wonderful things that C-level people care about. And then there's all this research happening from Gartner, et cetera, that's showing that companies that have RevOps have higher stock prices and do better and XYZ. So all of a sudden, the messaging has like changed over the last year where C-level gets it. And they're saying, we need RevOps and I need this to be strategic and I need them showing that they're impacting revenue. But the amount of like funding and support for RevOps teams hasn't drastically changed. And when you're inundated with tickets and deal desk operations and bugs and issues, but you don't get the money to fix them at the source, there's just no room for that. Like there's just no room to be smart when you're dealing with a fire. And so I am excited to see like the new leaders that are stepping up right now and that are becoming CROs. A lot of them have ops backgrounds. So I think that that's changing, and in the next 5 years, I think they all will have at least been in the trenches a bit so that they understand that, you know, it takes time to fix the issues that you've built over the last 10 years so that you can be strategic, otherwise you're just firefighting.
Patient and strategic. There's also this strange perception that RevOps is just sales ops in sheep's clothing, and I think that there's a bad rep there. What do you think RevOps teams can do to no longer be in that mode and no longer have this perception that it's all about forecasting and prediction as opposed to the actual RevOps function that makes sure that the entire GTM buying cycle is efficient.
Yeah. Well, okay. A lot of times when you think about RevOps, or people say that they don't or do have a revenue operations team, you're thinking org chart. And org charts are good, but like, who looks at an org chart to make a decision? We say RevOps a lot, but sometimes I say go-to-market operations. I think it brings a little bit of clarity. So if you are just doing sales ops, you're not thinking about the handoff between marketing and sales. And you're not thinking about, like, maybe a little bit here, but like SDR to AE is another really painful spot. But so is it at the end of you sign a contract, that should be the happiest moment. And sometimes we don't talk to our customer for like 2 weeks till the onboarding team starts, right? And it's those points that are really the issues. So if you really just have a sales ops team calling themselves RevOps team, they're not going to be tackling those things. So you'll know by the roadmap which one you have, because if they're just focusing on, honestly, just like deal operations, then they're probably just truly sales ops.
It's true. Actually, I don't know if you know, but that's how we started Chili Pepper. It was that handoff between sales and customer success.
Yeah.
People ignore that step, and yet you have such a big churn rate happening from ghosting in the onboarding process.
Totally.
And not doing that handoff properly can break or make a customer score and NNR.
Yeah.
So I'm happy that you're mentioning all these touch points because they're all important.
Yeah.
I'm happy that I've had you today.
Thank you.
We were long due for it.
We were. Appreciate being here.